And
It takes a few minutes.
and you're live.
Now you're live. There.
Sit here and stare at people for a second.
Almost like it's frozen. Like
Yeah.
All right,
Yeah.
so happy Thursday. First, before we jump into all questions and the details and all that stuff for the week, I really do want to again thank you for the behaviors last weekend. It was quiet. Hail might have helped a little bit, but thank you for staying out of the biblical hail. I hear Sergeant Gear may have encouraged that behavior. But no, really, thank you. The weekend went really, really well. Everyone did exactly the way they were supposed to. Students took care of each other, so I cannot overstate that. So thank you.
yeah, nothing to add to that other than hopefully the folks that came out on Saturday and kind of enjoy some of that time playing cornhole and just getting around, enjoying the food trucks, enjoying the first sergeants grilling. Those are all kind of the things that show that we've recognized the less than stellar environment you guys have been in for the last couple almost 2 months now. So that's our way of trying to give back and keep you guys motivated and show that that we care and that we're here for you. So hopefully you guys enjoy that. If you got other ideas, or if you got feedback for future events like that, definitely let us know, because we're all about trying to make sure that you guys are taken care of.
And I do, on that note, so the chapel's going to open this weekend. And then after that, I know there's some significant discussion of things like the bowling alley and of course keeping the stuff that was open open. The outdoor gym should continue to expand. So there is a desire, intent, and planning effort to continue moving things. Expect to see it, every couple of weeks more things open. So do things, kind of sense for a few weeks, and then get to the next step. So what you said, I had 50? How many? 52. So before I keep going, I'm pretty disappointed that I only have 52 subscribers. Those are rookie numbers. But,
Wow.
That's
Really?
that's rookie. But no, really. Again, just keep doing the stuff we're doing. So tomorrow, as some of you are tracking, and now many of you will, there's a delegation coming through that includes 1 4-star and 1 3-star. They're going to spend the preponderance of their time on base in our spaces, the dorms, the classroom, meeting our airmen, seeing our classes, because that's the thing to show right now, quite honestly. We're going to show how a student-driven, student-empowered, instructor-managed process can keep our students moving despite all of these challenges. If you have an opportunity, the same thing I would tell you before, I'll tell you now. If you're talking to the general, talking to the entourage, customs and courtesies, of course, but if they ask you what's going on, swing for distance. Ask them about the stuff that matters to you. Don't be the person who's at home brushing your teeth that night going, man, I really wish I'd asked that question. Because you will have, I don't know that you'll have another chance in your Air Force career to have 7 stars in a room interested in what you're doing. They're traveling to San Angelo, which is not exactly the easiest place to travel to, in the middle of the pandemic to meet with you. So if they do all of that and they stand there in front of you and ask you what's your interest, what's your concerns, what you want to talk about, and you say nothing or give them some lame crap because you're afraid to talk to them, you have wasted your opportunity and their time. I know kidding cannot overemphasize swing for distance. If they ask you questions, use that time for things that matter to you. Things that are good that we should keep doing. Things that are bad that we should stop doing. This is all those moments. And the people that are coming, this is the Vice Chief of Staff of the Air Force. So there's only one person, the Chief of Staff, that may arguably be more of an important person to visit you. The other general, the 3-star General O'Brien, she is the half A2. So that is the senior Air Force person on the headquarters Air Force staff. So these, not that everybody doesn't matter, you all matter, everybody matters, but these cats really matter, right? So let's have some fun with this visit and kind of show out.
That's right. Good.
And again, as we get through, if there's any questions on that, I'll field those questions. So we're looking through some of the pre-questions before we go live with whatever else we have. Actually, one more note. So the weather has been fairly aggressive lately.
Mhm.
Sleet, hail, plagues, wasps. I don't know. What else do you
Murder
get?
hornets.
Yeah.
What are those?
The murder hornets.
Yeah,
Murder
yeah,
hornets.
yeah,
I don't
yeah.
know. But all joking aside, we've had some challenges with the weather and natural disasters, things like that. Um, I need all of us in the squadron to ensure that our contact information is current on all of our rosters. We should be able to contact everybody in the squadron very, very, very quickly, especially now that we're all confined to this area. So if you do not believe that your data or your contact information is up to date, now is the time to do that. I would expect there's going to be opportunities today when the alarms go off that may have to account for students. So please make sure that's not something that makes someone have to come knock on your door to find you.
Yeah.
So make sure your contact's up to date. Yeah. So last thing before we get into the questions, many of the questions that we get right now from both our staff and our students uh, are when can we do this? When is this going to happen? When is that going to happen? I'm going to grown ass men and women, right? We are now working in an environment that is conditions based. We will do things when the conditions get to things. So if you accept that something is condition based, the most illogical thing you can ask next is when. Because frankly, I don't know. That when is going to happen when those conditions are met. So conditions for opening. I know there's a plan for reopening America that's been published. The Pentagon has put down the 5 pages on what they think. If you read through that, and I invite you all to go read through it, it's a lot, 5 pages, but still a lot. It really can be summarized as things will open when the local conditions warrant that. So when the local conditions are met, 14 days of continual decrease in positive cases, uh, things of that nature, when those happen, things will open. But when is not a date on a calendar. When is the conditions are met. So when you ask me questions like, when can I get my car? When the conditions are met. When are my parents going to come visit, be able to visit? Again, when those conditions are met. And right now we are in a conditions that really make it better to keep us inside this gate and keep us inside 50 miles for the staff, because the conditions are frankly better here. If we open up and say everybody can go to Dias conditions are much worse, or Abilene's conditions are much worse than ours. That was a not smart decision. If we say everybody can go to San Antonio next weekend, San Antonio's conditions are worse than ours, that would make our condition worse. Doesn't make any sense. So please bear with us on that. It's a weird, uncomfortable planning spot, but I need us to all be on the same page.
Yeah, now I would say to add to that, so there's a benefit to condition based versus time based, right? Because conditions may warrant and things may be improved, but because we kind of handcuff ourselves to a date, now we have to wait for that date. Whereas now the COVID-19 thing has been very fluid, very back and forth, and so it's this is going to provide local commanders the ability to say, hey, my base is good to go. We're not affected by it. We can start to send people there. They don't have to wait. They don't have to submit paperwork. They can just go and get there versus waiting on time and everything else until things are good to go. So I would say, hopefully, be patient, but don't look at this new way of, time versus condition as a bad thing. This is actually going to allow commanders and leaders to adapt to the environment and make decisions based on that and not have to wait for, hey, well, I got to wait 2 more weeks because the SecDef said so. No, you local commanders are able to make those decisions at your level for what's conducive for your environments. And that actually makes things faster versus slower.
And the last thing that I tell you on that is the most important part of the conditions, our behavior
Mhm.
has been met. We are responsible. We're
Right.
taking care of ourselves.
Right.
No one's going to worry about when we do this, are the students and then the staff going to go crazy? No, because we've proven that we are responsible. And so it's honestly just COVID conditions are met and we're good to go. All right, any good questions or any questions? Let's not categorize them.
Right.
I'll start with this one. Do we have any updates or direction on getting our cars inspected for insurance claims after the recent hail damage?
Yeah, so there is a movement afoot, if you will. There's a plan to actually get all of the USA and these appraisers on the base to centrally locate it and make it easy to happen. I would expect to have a pretty good data on that either tomorrow or early next week. Honestly, if we said go downtown, good luck with that right now. It would be actually much better to bring them to you, because then it's just the people on base talking to those appraisers, vice the 100,000 people in San Angelo that are all trying to get their dents fixed.
Yep. That's it, sir. That's funny.
Okay. Would it be possible to get some kind of CLEPS testing program on base? I know that would require the assistance from the local university because our ed center does not have the means to administer tests.
You said possible, right?
Yeah, anything's possible. No. Yeah, so I would say, yeah, CLEPS is a thing. However, just as a reminder, if you're in training, then you really shouldn't be working on CLEPS. Then if you're a student that has graduated and you're waiting to leave, I would argue your focus should be on trying to leave and get out of here. Now, granted, if you're here for a indefinite amount of time, then yeah, absolutely, you can take CLEPS. But I would say the focus really for here is let's get you here, get you trained, and then get you on to your career. But we have discussed the CLEP thing. We've looked to leverage ASU downtown. They've been amenable to, yep, we can support that ability. So we basically really need to see what does that demand signal look like. How many students really are interested in wanting to take CLEPS? If the demand signal is large enough, then we can definitely go do that. But if it's only a dozen or so of you, that may not be enough for them to jump on and say, hey, yeah, we can support.
But let's just like you're saying, let's figure out what the demand signal is.
Yeah.
If there's, if I've got 60 students that need to
Right.
take a math club, and
Right.
let's
Right.
make this happen, right?
Right.
But it's a large ask, so we need to make sure we're asking for the right large things.
Yeah.
Good question though.
You covered the families visiting. Are there any changes to ROM coming as far as ROM early release or self-observation?
I feel like people are cheating. Like
Yeah,
one of you
right?
guys is like
It's-
spiking my email or
Somebody
something like that.
feeding
Right?
the masses already at a time.
Yeah, so there are. There's both a local policy and an AATC policy that is going to allow, honestly, me some space to release people from ROM. I was empowered with that on 26 May, so I can't retroactively because of the way it is written. I can't go back, and once you hit ROM, you stay in ROM.
Mhm.
So what we intend to do, and we're still working with our Palm partners because it has to be done. Kind of everything has to be moved at the same time, right? To come up with a process where we screen you at the gate. So think visitor center over the phone, screen you, make sure everything's cool. You didn't come from a hotspot, good to go, get you directly into the dorms.
Mhm.
Never hit ROM. And then you're in some type of self-screening. Otherwise, you go into ROM. So I don't necessarily think ROM is changing, but what we will try to do is have an off-ramp that prevents you ever entering ROM.
Right.
But we're not going to speed because ROM is designed to protect our student body. I would prefer, as painful as it is to feed people in ROM, and I'm sure it sucks to sit in your room that long, I prefer to pay that to keep the pipeline open than the other way and have to close down the pipeline.
Yes, sir. That checks.
Any update on the auto hobby shop being open?
It's got to be the same person that's
Yeah,
laughing.
I think it is.
Yeah.
Dude, let me know what your mechanical skills are, and I'll go see what I can make happen. No, these guys probably like changing people's oil for.
Oh man.
No, man. I don't have any, but we'll ask. That was not one of the things that was on the spreadsheet. I know the next things that we're tracking are things like the library and the bowling alley, but we'll ask about that one.
All right.
PT question.
I've heard rumors that you now have to pass a PT test with higher standards than BMT in order to graduate tech school. I don't like that. Is there any truth to it?
Right. So sometimes in life we have to deal with things we don't like. I am very unhappy that my hair fell out. Yeah, dude. There are new PT standards. It's not necessarily new. They're fairly close to what used to be, but the design is not to make it harder, but to on-ramp airmen better. The reality is that depending on what your news source is and what day you look at it, someplace between 30 and a little over 50% of the American youth are unable to join the military because of physical limitations. And even the ones that are, we are crashing into a wall at basic training. That I'm sure many of you went through basic and saw a lot of people on the limp around flight, right? Because people had never, they had musculoskeletal issues because they never balanced doing push-ups. So to get around that, General told us, and I fully support both because it's my job and because I fundamentally think this is right, has introduced a process where you have to meet 85% of a standard in basic training, and then when the first 150 days of your tech school or graduation, whatever happens first, you have to meet 100% of the standard. You're working on PT right now to get you to that standard. We're working on incorporating that into our phase program. We're working on ways to make sure that's never a problem. But it is the reality, and you will have to meet those standards. But my goal for you, and really my responsibility, is to make sure that the standards aren't a problem. Standards are just something you do.
Yeah, no, I would say when you look at it, the standards are not drastically different from what you're going to have to do in basic training. You have to do, maybe a few more sit-ups, a few more push-ups, run a little bit faster, but it's not going to be how, hey, you got to go from running in 13 minutes to running in 9 minutes. It's nothing like that. It's still something well within the realm of possibilities. And then if you actually look at the standards themselves, they're actually the minimums for each component to satisfy that component. So if you actually just did those numbers, I think you end up getting like an 80 something, like a low 80 on the actual test. And so if you think about it that way, we're not really asking you to do anything much more than the standard anyway. But like the boss said, it's not something that we're really going to sweat about because we're going to dominate it. We're going to be just fine. The cadre and staff have a plan in place to where it should not be a concern for anyone. And then if you are concerned, there's going to be a plethora of opportunities where maybe if you're not getting enough from the time that you do go, you can easily latch on to other groups and work out with them just to get to that point. But the idea is to focus on getting better and not so much, oh, well, this is going to be harder for me to do. Don't worry about it. You're going to dominate it anyway. So just do it.
Couple things. So one, and we owe you this. Let's please, if I forget this tomorrow, I'd like to put on the whiteboards in the dorms what the standard is, so that we're not hiding it, right? Sure. So we'll throw that up there. The reason I didn't throw that out right at first is I don't care about the test. I care about you being healthy. If the test is how we express it, that's fine. But quite honestly, it's going to be irrelevant because just like the senior says, you're just going to dominate that, right? And you only have to hit those numbers once in tech school, and you're good. So I think for males under 30, you have to do 44 push-ups. Yeah. Do 44 push-ups at one PT session, count them out, 44, check, good. You got to run, I think it's someplace in the
like 13, 14.
You got to run that, check, good. I'm not, we're not trying to build super athletes. We're trying to build healthy Americans.
Yeah.
So we'll work on this. Not everybody's going to love it. Not everybody likes working out. I think of it as recess for adults, and I love it. I think it's great fun. But I got it. But the only thing I would disagree with seniors, we're not going to ask you to do this. We're going to make you do it because my boss has said you have to do it. So we're going to do it.
All right. For students going to an OCONUS base.
That's fine.
For students going to an OCONUS base, can we take leave before reporting to our base? So leave en route.
Yeah, so I would say this kind of goes back to the conditions-based discussion. So it may be where, hey, the conditions for that base may be where you go from point A to point B, and you're not allowed to do anything else en route. That might be one of those conditions, depending on the location of where you're going. Right now, once again, with the boss, we're going to have to wait and see, because as each commander makes a decision on how to open up their bases, there may be some requirements to be met with that. I would say I can only imagine that there may be some more ROM that has to get done. So if you do take leave en route to a location, once you get there, they may put you in ROM for a couple weeks, just to kind of see. And a lot of that's going to depend on where you're going. So I'd imagine if you're going to Germany, just having been in that location, they are super uber sensitive to, this type of pandemic. And so I would almost imagine that they would lock you away for a couple weeks, not in jail, obviously, but they would put you in some type of restriction for a couple weeks just to monitor you and make sure that you're not carrying the virus.
Um, so that was a very nice way of senior saying no.
Yeah.
Right now, DoD is permitting point A, point B travel.
Yeah.
And that's why we get to carry extra leave this year.
Right.
Because
Exactly.
they know we're not going to be able to burn
Yeah.
it.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
right now, it's straight up no.
Yeah.
All right. I heard from civilians that work here on base that they will be returning to a normal work schedule on June 1st. If this is true, what can we expect to see change, if anything? In other words, are our teachers being allowed in the classroom for more than 1 hour a day?
Okay, so let me break that question down.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yep, some civilians are coming back. We went to HBCon Bravo. Instructors can be in the classroom as long as they need to. But if you think we're ever going to go back to 8 hours a day reading you slides,
Right.
man, you're at the wrong spot, bro.
Right.
We are going to the distance learning. So the stuff that you may or may not have done on JKO, the material that is done virtually, the lessons through the Microsoft Teams. We're going to have more of that.
Right.
We're also going to have more what we call hybrid style or seminar style lectures. I'll tell you straight up, y'all are college age. So we are going to run this like a college, not like a high school. In a college, most everything is going to be developed in a seminar style where you're expected to show up for class prepared. You're going to have an hour or two with your instructor to discuss the material and what it means to you. And then you're going to test it, dominate, and move on. So I do not expect to get more instructor physical presence because we're doing what we're doing and this is what we're going to do.
Right. Yeah, it's the 1 hour per day. It's the training model that we've developed, and the idea is that you guys don't need someone there force feeding you the material. You can have someone that can provide a guided discussion on something you've already covered, and then step out of the way. But the 1 hour, we're still looking to validate that if that's the right number. So that's kind of the number that we've used previously in other courses. But yeah, your instructor should not be saying, "Oh, I hit my hour. I can't talk to you anymore." It should be what makes sense to help you get through that. Now, we're like the boss said, we don't expect us to go. I would say anything more than 3 hours, we're probably teetering back towards the old way of doing business. The idea is to give you guys space to read the material, develop your own questions, of maybe what you don't understand, but at the same time, see how much you can understand on your own, and then have the instructor come in and guide the discussion and fill in the blanks on some of the areas where maybe you're struggling a little bit. But yeah, the idea is to kind of put you guys in control and to not have us being in the way, slowing down your progression.
That's the most recent one, I think.
So I see the question about leave en route to
Yep, I see
JCAT.
that.
That's kind of a non-starter also.
Yep.
And I need people to take a step back and understand that none of this is directed at us as individuals, right? So, and that as Americans, that kind of stinks, right? Because we kind of think about individual freedoms moving forward, and anything that limits those freedoms are taken as a personal slight. I can tell you there is no rule being made specific for any one of our airmen.
Right.
We are all being held to the exact same rules. Staff that is PCSing is going directly from where they are to where they're going.
Right.
When you leave here, you're going to go directly from where you are to where you're going. When you get to your next duty station, there will be limits to travel around that duty station. These are DoD rules. Same thing as the PT, right? It's a second Air Force level requirement. While it feels like it's individually tailored because it's the individual having to adhere to it, these are things that are limiting every single person right now.
And you guys need to understand that, right now we're at a point where we're trying to minimize the spread of the pandemic, especially when we haven't solved the problem with people that are asymptomatic, where you can carry the virus but not show any symptoms. And so, if you don't absolutely have to expose yourself to environments, then don't do it. That's kind of what the DoD is having us, focus on. Do the absolute travel that's necessary to get you through training, to get you to your operational units. and don't really increase the risk of exposure by doing unnecessary travel to leave and other places like that. So I get it. People want to go visit family and everything else, but those are risks where now your exposure goes up, unintentionally, right? So it's really for your safety and to only focus on doing the absolute things that need to get done to get you guys trained and get you guys out to the field.
Which again is going really well. We
Yeah.
have less than 500 students in our squadron, which has never
Yeah.
happened. So
Yeah.
we're moving students out quickly. So just bear with us, stick with it, and we're going to get you where you need to be.
Different questions so far.
Well, so we can awkwardly look at each other
Right.
for a little bit virtually. Yeah. Anybody know any good jokes? I'm kidding. Please don't type them. Yeah. So we'll do I guess, quick recap pending any other questions. And the bottom line is what you did last weekend was what right looks like. Thank you. Keep doing that. In fact, it's what right looks like across the training group because the other squadrons are starting to lean in on that. For those of you that have done the Watchdog program and work with the squadrons, this is good. We're doing well. Let's keep it tight. We'll look for some more stuff to open up, and we're going to move forward.
Oh God.
Oh no.
That's gear.
One before that is, so do PT tests taking a DLI count? Yes.
Yes. So if you've got a PT test and you have passed an official PT test, you're good, man. It's cool. I'm not going to retroactively fail you. It's just a standard. We're going to put some numbers on the board and we're going to make those standards. It's like passing a test. You're going to be fine. And we are the greatest squadron. Sergeant Gear, you're welcome.
Let's get a 1 to Wow.
Do you want to entertain a hot dog question, or do you want to
Is
answer
a
one
hot
about
dog a
getting
taco?
getting stuff before leave?
So I want to be able to go home and get my stuff before I leave for my duty station. Stuff.
Go home to get them. So they're talking about their home and record.
So
To pick up their initials.
So you might have to work with TMO through that because they might
Mhm.
just do a separate pickup there. I honestly I don't know. We're gonna have to work on that. There may have to be. I know when you PCS that you can get reimbursed for things that got mailed to you,
Mhm.
things like that. It may be frustrating and difficult, but it's probably not. And it's probably not going to be as cool as we want it to be.
Mhm.
But there are processes for that. We'll have to just
Yeah.
work
Yeah.
each case specific.
Yeah.
Oh my god.
If my official BT test was delayed in March, when do you think I could expect to take it?
Your official PT test, right now in February. No, they kind of got punted out.
Yeah.
Still not really starting again. It depends on what your scores were. If you're an excellent, you're like this guy. You're basically waiting for a year or so till you take another test.
Right.
You may see tests start again in October. You may not.
Yeah.
So again, it's going to be conditions based. We do have to meet the standards of the Second Air Force did, so we're going to do mock PT tests where it's appropriate.
Are we able to take emergency leave? So yep, those things are still able to do and understand that the same rules apply. So we're talking, mother, father, sister, brothers, spouse, kids. Those are the ones that qualify for the e-leave policy. If you have a situation where, hey, I was raised by my grandparents, something like that, then we'll also treat those as well. But e-leave is really going to be still same rules apply as they always have. But yes, e-leave is still a thing.
And so far, I have approved them to the fullest extent that I can. I cannot think of one that we've said no to. So we are not trying to constrain people more than we have to.
Right. So I got a question: is it grandparents and question mark?
The grandparents generally do not qualify
They do
for
not.
emergency leave unless they were your primary
Exactly.
caregiver.
Yes.
Which
Which usually is something in writing showing that, hey, my grandparent raised me from the age of
it does have to be sustained.
It does have to be saying,
Right.
It can't just be, oh yeah, they raised me. No, it has to be like they were your sole provider because mom and dad were not around or whatever the case is. But yeah,
But your conditions may vary, so make sure you ask, and we can deal with each case by case.
Yeah.
The thing that we are very, very fortunate of, and I'm not meaning this as pandering because of my bosses, but my boss and my boss's boss have been very, very, very lenient in providing authorities to make good decisions for good people. So let's just ask and see what we need to do.
What is the approximate time between ROM status, first arrival, and graduation for linguists here with the accelerated course?
It's going to be dependent on which language.
It depends on which
Language,
language.
yeah,
Depends on your skills.
you're right. Yep.
Yeah. So I can tell you, on average, across all the courses, we're graduating people anyplace between 30 and 45 days early.
Right.
Now, if you're a linguist, if you're airborne, that's not going to help you because you're going to wait to go to SEER. But move forward, not plan backwards. So
Right.
let's, get out of ROM and dominate and move forward. And depending on where you're going, like right now, we found out last week, Fort Gordon and Hickam aren't taking people.
Right.
So that it could all. We're in an unknown time. Dominate the challenge in front of you, and then get to your next.
Right.
I haven't seen it. If we are not fully adjudicated before we finish our class, are we still able to go to JCAC?
Yes, maybe.
It's going to. It's one of those. It's a case by case for the 104 alphas, because there is still quite a bit of JCAC you can do without a clearance. A lot of the material is still unclassified. However, they haven't necessarily taken the approach that we have, and so they may still be doing unclassified training inside of a skiff, which they are. So, whereas we've gone to the extreme of extracting as much of that out as possible and putting it in an unclassed environment, they haven't done the same. So yes, more than likely you're going to need that interim at least to be able to go down there and enter into training. Yeah.
And then for the alphas, understand we are working under a constrained environment at JCAT.
Yeah.
We're managing it bed to bed, like no kidding. We have 2 Air Force people graduating each week on average. When those 2 beds open up, we can move 2 people. If one of the graduates happen to live off base, we can move somebody who lives off base, but not somebody who lives on.
Right.
So probably the most frustrated group, and I understand it. The alphas are going to fly through their course and then wait. Yep. That's what happens when you're. That's what happens when you're breaking ground. Sometimes you got to wait for the situation to clear up so you can move forward.
Can those who got assigned Hickam or Gordon expect to be rerouted to a different base, or just wait for those bases to get more space?
So once again, kind of going back to the conditions based thing, we're going to have to kind of wait and see. Nobody wants to make a decision on that, and all of a sudden the conditions improve, and now folks can go. At some point, I think we're going to get to, hey, if it's been 2 months or whatever, I can see that conversation start. Once again, so don't quote me on 2 months or anything else, but I can see if it's been a long time. Sorry for being so vague, but I don't want to get hung up on time. But there will be a point where leadership will say, all right, it's been long enough. We need to come out and divert folks. So if you think about when COVID first broke out, places like Germany and Korea were kind of like, hey, off limits. And so they immediately said, hey, versus having people wait because we didn't know when those things were going to improve, they went ahead and began diverting. So what's going to happen is leaders are going to begin to get data from those locations to get an idea, hey, currently conditions aren't good. However, we predict or project conditions to improve in X amount of days, weeks, months, whatever. And I imagine they'll use that data to then make a decision on what to do with those folks.
Yeah, and the worst thing you can say as a commander is, I don't know, but I don't know, man.
Right.
I hope we find out, but I tell you now could be untrue tomorrow morning.
Exactly.
But we will. I can assure you, every decision that is going to be made is going to be in your best interest. Right. We're not going to be like, well, hose them, they get to go someplace crappy.
Right.
No, man, no. We're going to do the best we can for everyone.
Looks like more clarification on that Hickam Gordon thing. So if our assignment is Hickam, we can't get orders anymore?
So you're going to still get orders.
Whoa.
Yeah, yes, you're still going to get orders. Yeah, so you're still going to get orders. It's just that what may end up happening is those RNLTDs may get adjusted. So for right now, your assignment will still be Hickam. But when you actually get to leave for that will be later determined later on.
And we don't even, so the situation maybe if you already have orders and you're already allocated, maybe it's cool. We honestly we don't know. But think about Hickam. It's an island. It's a finite number of people. Unlike some people, I don't believe it'll tip over if you put too many people like Juan.
You're right.
But Google that.
Right.
It's just gonna take some time to sort out. But we will continue to work those. And I apologize if I added confusion. But we'll work it.
When is the journal coming? Tomorrow.
Whenever the general wants.
Right.
It's 2 generals. One's got 4. One's got 3 stars. Yeah, I think they get here late morning. They're going to be in our spaces in the dorms at about 11-ish. They're going to be in the classroom at about 1-ish. But again, general's going to general, and they're going to get there when they want to.
Right.
Will those airmen who qualify for RAP be given it if everything goes back to normal in 6 months?
I don't know. It's going to depend operationally, right? So I can't say yes because I can't promise you something in the future. Also, with unemployment being what it is, I don't know how much assistance the recruiters are going to need.
Right.
I don't know how much bases are going to be willing to let their airmen go to go do those things. So unknown.
Right. Because once again, going back to what I was saying earlier, that's more exposure. So now if you're helping your recruiter and you're going, well, one, where are they going to go? Because most of the schools are out. And then at least I haven't heard, but right now there aren't too many school districts that have committed to saying they will have students in class in the fall. So a lot of that could still be up in the air. So yeah, so that part of it, yeah, we're still don't know yet.
I know the generals are not going to go visit ROM airmen. They're going to they got 2 stops with us and a couple other stops, but it's going to be boom.
Yeah, really quick.
It's kind of a touch and go. They hit in early or late morning and leave in late afternoon. But if there's a ROM specific issue that you want us to bring up, we do have it on the thing. I swear to God, if you tell us what the issue is, I'm not going to filter. Let me know and I'll bring it up.
Okay. Yeah.
So hit somebody up or email someone or myself or whatever. And if there's something that we need to bring to their attention, we'll absolutely do that. Dude, wait, if they go to ROM Airmen, they talk to one, do they then have to go in ROM?
Yes. Yep.
It's
like, oh, I'm sorry, General, up for 2 weeks.
San Andreas with 7 stars on the base for 2 weeks.
Oh man.
All right.
Looks like it.
Anything else? As always, I appreciate these questions. I appreciate Gear for helping keep them moving.
Yeah. Right.
All right. So rather than stare at each other awkwardly, I appreciate everybody's time. More importantly, I appreciate your behavior, and ultimately, I appreciate the leadership that you guys are displaying.
Since the generals are coming from off base, have they been placed in a ROM? I don't want to get sick.
No, so they are actually flying on a dedicated airlift. They're going to be taken just like our basic trainees, probably nicer though, to the base. They're going to actually get screened by medical at the base, so they're going to go through the questionnaire, and then they're going to go through their tour. So, I guess avoid the generals if you're worried.
Yeah, if you're worried about it, then
yeah. No, that's a fair-ish question. But no. So again, thank you guys for your time. Thank you guys for the for the leadership that you guys display on the weekends and just all the time. There's a reason why they're going to spend most of their time here with our airmen. Because one, you know how to do this. You've been doing it. You know how to get through this because you are getting through it. And you know how to be empathetic and take care of each other. So I want to make sure we foot stomp that tomorrow. I can assure you, the senior and I have some time with them, and every single thing we're going to talk about is the fact that we've set parameters and our airmen have performed. What we have learned is that the limitations we had in the past limited our airmen. The thing I'll continue to go back to is none of you have stood in 60-person formations in 3 months, and people aren't late for class. Nobody's waking you up, and people aren't missing, to my knowledge, any of their training windows. So that is a testament to the fact that we need to provide resources to our airmen and stay out of their way, and they're going to do good things. So thank you for that, because I think tomorrow we're going to have an amazingly good dialogue with them, both directly and more importantly, they're going to have a better dialogue with you.
Right.
So again, as always, I thank you guys for your time.
That's it. That's it.